Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and call this committee, well, actually, we already called it to order, so we just need to have a motion to come out of recess. So we've already done the Pledge of Allegiance and everything for this meeting prior to council meeting. So if I can get a motion to come out of recess, that'd be great.
Motion to come out of recess.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Lundin and a second from Councilman Merrill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, so when we, and I don't know if you guys don't mind, I might change the order on some of these things, just because we've got folks kind of waiting to speak on a few of these matters, so. But just to wrap up, E8 was where we had left off earlier, on the homeowner association development discussion, and I think pretty much you guys are more in favor of saying, okay, we're gonna
City standards.
hold them to the city standards, and Steve and I are more in favor of saying we're gonna, try to be a little more flexible on a case-by-case basis, and Jeff, you would really be the one that would kind of be the one that decides if we want to take this to council or not, or if you wanted to kind of leave things as is, so.
Well, you guys are saying that, because of, they follow other ordinances and codes and stuff, that you want them to meet the roads and sewer and all that. And your guys' big pushback was to allow the developer to do what he wanted with his home association. And I agree with you guys, Luke and George, that most people don't really know what they're really getting into. Yes, they sign contracts and everything, but do they really go through it? I don't think so. And I have heard of home associations going under. I had a guy at work, actually, his home association, the treasurer took the money and left, like all the money. They do happen. So I guess I am for them making sure that the roads are up to city code and with water and all that, just in case they fail. If the city had to take it over for whatever reason, I'm not saying that I would ever go for it, but future councils, I don't know. But in my opinion, when you're inside the city limits, people often expect this to be a city road. And I know the blue signs are up and people should know, but there's a lot of people that just don't know. They buy a house and they just go for it. So that's where I would fall on that. And I'm sure at a later date, it'll come and bite me with allowing the developers to do what they want. I agree with that, but overall, I think when you're buying inside the city limits, they're expecting that to be a city road. And I'd hate to see somebody not know that, and then years later, if these big expenses come, they're just kind of SOL.
Yeah, we had 20 people in here for that meeting a couple months ago that were all on that street. They had no idea that was a
No,
even
well,
a thing.
that meeting was for the public hearing for the apartment
Oh, right, but that was
stuff,
something that they
but
brought
and
up.
most of those people were actually on those other streets that are not part of that whole.
There ain't
It was,
20 houses there.
yeah, there's only like
Yeah.
4 houses on that
Okay.
private road,
Well,
but,
there's at least 5 people that talked about how they didn't know that the homeowners association didn't have to build their street up to city code, so now they're kind of on the hook. And I think we're just protecting the residents in,
yeah, and I mean, I mean, you guys are not wrong in that thinking. It's just, if you leave it the way it is, it's a case-by-case basis, and you might have somebody that comes in and says, okay, well, they're making me go right to and the staff will tell that developer, well, you have to follow city code. So that's the way it is, and then they're gonna say, well, maybe I'll go to Princeton or something. I mean, that's how that will work. So this way you have the flexibility, whereas if you say, no, we're gonna put that in code, that you have to follow city code on a homeowners association, and we're not going to be flexible, you may discourage development.
But developers also know that they can get variances for dang near anything. I mean, anybody that's developed any sort of properties know that there's
No,
options
but
for,
even if that was the case.
in a rare
then
case.
even if that was the case, why would they work harder than they have to? Why wouldn't they go to the next town that will work with them and allow them to, fit a little more in? But
I don't think
I
other,
would like to add, Mayor and Council, so kind of how it works, if we were to move forward with having requirements with homeowner associations, for example, having just streets that meet city standard, we would be adding that to our city zoning code. And let's just say a developer came to Ms. Hillesheim and wanted to talk to her about adding this development, and here's what I want to bring. If they propose something to her department that doesn't have the roads up to standard, she's going to say that doesn't meet our requirements. It's not going to come for asking for a variance. It probably, not always, but could be turning them away because it's written down in code. That's what we're doing. Unless it's a planned unit, a PUD, a planned unit development, where there is more discretion. But a homeowners association, if we put a specific language in zoning code, we're going to say these are what you need to meet.
okay, so what happens when, say, you have a commercial development, like, I remember Alina, they wanted to have their setbacks, what was it, 8 feet from the road instead of the 20 or whatever is required, and they got a variance on that. So what's the difference between getting a variance on something, but they had to go through council to get it approved, we had to make sure it's okay. So our job here as council is to be the checks and balances. You know, if we just basically give a homeowners association free reign, they can do whatever they want, well, who's the check and balance on that?
Well, but we're not doing that either. We're only saying that if they want to, I mean, they'd have to come before us. It's not, right? I mean, for the homeowners association to get,
A variance is used more for one parcel. So for an entire development, we would be talking about a planned unit development. But if within those boundaries of a planned unit development, you're saying that homeowners associations cannot go outside of this, it's really making it impossible for them to not meet those standards. Does that make sense?
I mean, why should a homeowners association get a different sort of preferential treatment, or, I mean, I just don't.
well, here's the thing,
I don't
like,
get-
I don't know if this is a great example, but maybe I might try it and see if it fits, and you guys can tell me if it does, but, so like on that Fairway Greens North, I don't know if it's city code or not, but there was a suggestion from the fire chief that we have a second entrance and a second exit. So is city code that we should have had that, and we decided that we would make a change to allow for them to just have the one, or was it not city code? That maybe isn't a great example, but
I wasn't here for that discussion, that was right before I started,
Yeah.
but we do have a requirement for the length of a cul-de-sac. So if it's in that bounds, but council does have through the PUD, does have discretion to make changes like that. But it's easier through the PUD process for smaller things like that, but an entire infrastructure I'm not going to tell people I always will direct them to a PUD first, because that is how every development has been done within the city for many, many years. So that's the way it's guided for us to do every development. But if we have solely written there saying HOAs must follow these directions within our ordinance, that is what I'm going to tell them. So that doesn't leave a lot of room for them or myself to have any discretion on any boundaries, so that could turn them away.
You're right, though, Councilman Merrill. I mean, they could say, okay, I understand that that's what your code says. However, I want to go before the planning commission and put my development in front of them. They could do that, but the recommendation from staff is that you don't meet the minimum standards.
And that's what we want, though, we want the minimum standards of the city to be met. So why, I mean, I don't
So
get.
do you want them coming
I
forward?
still don't understand your purpose on that, though, because if you don't intend to, if the homeowners association fails and you still don't intend to pick up the slack and plow the roads or anything like that, then what does it matter if it meets the city code on the roads or not?
I don't want people to get, I mean, that's just a small example, just the plowing on the roads. I mean, I'm sure there's other things in city code that aren't met by homeowners association that we don't even know about. And that's the scary thing. I mean, you have someone that comes in with, they have a project. You think every person up here is gonna think about every single potential thing that they could sneak under our noses? No, but we have a city ordinance for a reason and a city code for a reason that holds people accountable. I mean, otherwise they could just come in and the water thing could get missed because we don't have a plumber on. I mean, we have a plumber now, but what if we don't in the future? The water shutoffs could be missed. If there's any sort of stormwater stuff that that could affect the rest of the city. I mean,
Well, I
there's,
mean, that's why you have a city engineer. I mean, I mean, I'm sure that, I mean,
can-
Jason and,
yeah.
and Mike were, and I'm assuming most of the staff was aware when that, and I don't know how long ago that was. I don't know who was in what spot at that time,
but
but
that should have never
that's been
happened.
years ago now, but.
And that
but
happened
yeah,
because
but-
we
but
don't have-
It wasn't that staff didn't know about it. Staff told the council at the time not to do that.
And they didn't listen, so now you, I mean,
Right,
now we
but-
have a subpar street because we didn't have it in our ordinances that they have to follow
But we
city
don't
code.
have, we don't have a subpar street or a subpar water meter
Well,
issue. The
they
homeowners association does.
Technically, yeah.
But there's also 15 houses there that might not be there now if the council didn't have that flexibility. So do those 15 houses, I mean, would they say, okay, well, I'd rather not I wish I'd never moved into this house because of this water shut-off issue? I mean, I doubt that they think that or feel that way, you know what I mean? And you may have pushed that project somewhere else to another town because you weren't allowing the flexibility. And the councils could have chose at that time to say, no, we're not gonna bend on that. You know, we want you to tear the road up and, you know, put a shut-off at every single house. But they decided not to do that, and they decided to develop the property. So, I mean, I think the flexibility is
I think there's
just
too much
valuable to give
risk,
up.
though.
I have
Too much
a
stuff can
question about it.
sneak in.
So the only differences we're really talking about is we want HOAs to have roads just like all other city developments, and we want sewer and water. Nothing else. They could do whatever they want. We just want to make sure their roads
The
are in spec.
infrastructure.
Yeah, just their infrastructure. They do whatever they want. Otherwise, I don't see where they would not, where it wouldn't benefit to do it themselves. Why they wouldn't want to comply to that. I mean,
More
what
money.
kind of corners are they cutting, or
Exactly.
what money are they saving by not doing that?
Let's say, I don't know, you guys maybe could tell me, or maybe Steve, you'd know this, but on, is it Fairway, not Fairway, it's kind of that big loop, that's over behind Mobile, what is the name of that road over there?
That's all HOA.
Yeah,
That is HO,
Yeah, it
is it Goldenrod over there maybe? And,
No.
No, it's on the other side. It's that, when you just go past,
Why can't I think of
and
that
they,
name? of that
and
street?
their streets
On the north
definitely aren't
side,
up to city
Blossom?
standards.
Well, no,
On the
but,
north side Blossom in there?
Yeah, Blossom.
yeah, you know where I'm talking about, where it's a big circle, and then they had just done that one, like, other piece
And they got
off
that
of it.
weird median thing and
Really narrow road.
really narrow
Right.
roads, you can't
But I
pull a
mean-
truck and trailer through there.
But that development might not get done with city streets of standard size. Those streets are smaller so that they're able to fit enough properties in there to make it profitable enough for them to pursue that project. So that's what, I mean, that's a lot of houses, and those are nice houses, and they're good houses for the elderly, and they're good houses for single people, and they're good, I mean, they're just, you might be pushing away projects like that if you are just gonna say right off the bat, no, we're not gonna allow you to do anything different. And it's not that we can't say when they come in front of us that, hey, well, we really want you to stick to this, can you make this work? We can still do that, but at the same time, at least it gives them more of a inviting thing to at least come and talk to us about it, to where we're open to flexibility. We may ask you to conform to the city standards because we think it's better, but they may say then, well, we can't really do it then, or we can't make it work, and then we have an option to say, well, sorry, we're just gonna pass on the project then, or we can say, well, maybe we can bend a little bit. You know, I just think having the flexibility, and especially when we've all been, you know, sitting up here talking about people you want people to do what they want on their own property. I want that developer to be able to do what he wants on his own property too, and develop it how he sees best fit, so. But,
I'm for the residents, not the developer. So, I don't know,
it's still his property.
yeah.
He
but
is,
it's
he's not a
city
resident
property,
maybe
too.
that he lives here, but he bought that property. He's sticking his neck out, I mean, it's,
I think anybody that's serious and about potentially doing a development, if they had a little issue like that, I think they would come in and ask for a variance. I mean, if I wanted to build a business here and I saw that, or build a development here and I saw that the roads had to be 12 feet, they can't be 10, I would think, well, maybe there's a little bit of leeway on that. I mean, people come in for variances all the time. Variances are a common thing in construction. So that would be my first thought. I mean,
Mayor and council, in talking with Ms. Hillsheim here, excuse me, it sounds like in Isani at least historically, the HOAs have gone through the PUD, planned unit development process, where they come and they bring their site plan and they put before Planning Commission what they want to do and do a preliminary plan. if we do have additional, and there you could determine that, or state there, we like your plan, or we don't like your plan, or we like your plan, and we want you to have your city standards be met on streets and infrastructure. If we have additional language in zoning code, we think that that will just add an extra hurdle, that they're gonna come before planning commission, see if that's something that's going to be, that the plan commission and city council, because you're one of the same, is willing to consider before they go through all the work of talking to an architect and a design firm and draft some plans up. If you are willing to work with some of them, you might get there anyway. So it might just add in another step.
Does anybody know how other cities do this? Because I can't imagine there's very many cities that allow HOAs not to follow their codes.
Oh, I think it's probably extremely common.
Through
that
planned
they've
unit
been
development,
done.
PUDs, and through the similar standards that we currently have. So allowing for those variances within our PUD process.
Yeah, it allow for variances, but not to meet city code. I guess maybe we just need more research on this, because I don't think there's any way that there's any other city, or many other cities that would do it that way.
And I mean, and you said, you know, you're for the residents, well, those residents might not be there if there's no house for them to move into. I mean, they have the free will to buy into that guy's project. I mean, if the developer is saying, okay, well, this is how I want to develop this property, and it's his property until he sells it, and those people don't have to buy that house, you know, but you may not have the resident that you're worried about if you don't allow some flexibility from these homeowners
Or you
associations.
may have a resident that's angry that they got a subpar infrastructure house.
Well, then they wouldn't have bought it in the first place.
Well, they
if
might
were
not
concerned
know,
about
just
that.
like the water shut off.
Oh, I know,
the
but they're
streets.
not gonna be able to see the street, and they're not, I mean, I think having the flexibility is key, but
Okay.
anyway, well, so as far as what are you thinking? You wanna bring us to council and have a vote on it, or?
I guess I'm okay with getting more information and seeing what other cities do, but I think when you're inside of a city, being uniform is a big thing. And I understand that you want them to have their free will to do their whole, development however they want, but people just don't, when they go to buy a house, some people just don't know that it's a private road, or, with all those issues. So, even though they should, read through the contract and everything, but there's a lot of people that just go sign the piece of paper and don't fully understand what they're getting into.
No, I mean, everybody that's in a homeowners association knows they're buying into a homeowners association.
Right, but they don't know that it might be subpar infrastructure or not up to the rest of the city standard.
What is city staff, is it okay with what it is right now, or?
I think currently the way it is right now is they would come forward with a PUD, and it would be up to council and planning commission's discretion on what to allow, which is what historically has been done in the past, which is true. It was against the current staff that we have that were at that meeting. We did not recommend, but it was brought forward to council, and they did approve it.
So you're leaving it on the shoulders of council members that might miss a bunch of stuff. I mean, stuff gets missed. Why leave it up to chance?
Would it take a lot of time for staff to do some comparables of some other cities and how they treat
No, I think we could definitely do that.
Yeah,
If we get some room
let's do that and see if there's any minimum width on streets.
in associations.
And we have to do something with the sewer and water shutoffs.
Well,
I think
said
that,
from the
yeah,
get-go,
yeah, that's for
That
sure.
should never been allowed.
That's something that the council missed, and that's
Well,
what
not
really,
Well, some council may have missed it, but it was very intentional to bring it forward with a project design the way that that was designed. And I think that even if we had it within city code, that you have individual water shutoffs, council could still change it with a PUD
right.
at that meeting.
But it's more of a conscious effort, and then you actually have to think about it, versus a lot of the stuff just motion to approve, motion to approve, motion to approve, motion to approve, just to get out of here. So if you go through a variance process, you have to know what's going on. It's not just slipped under the rug.
Let me give you an example, and then we'll move on, and we can decide if we want to bring this to the city meeting, or the council meeting on the 5th, or if we want to bring it back for Cow. But, when I'm looking for a spot for like a concession trailer for the pizza business or whatever, so if I call a city and they say, we have got just like we do here, where we've got an annual permit and we welcome you with open arms and all this kind of stuff. That is almost for certain where I'm gonna go to do my business, right? And that's a common issue that we deal with, is in that type of operation. But if I call and they say, well, we do have this rule here, but you can come before the council and you can ask them if they'd make a special exception for you, I'm not gonna waste my time with that. I don't have time to waste with that. I might spend, if you look at how fast we do things sometimes, I don't wanna spend 3 or 4 months. Like, I'm ready to go in 2 months, and I wanna get started on construction, and I wanna, that will be the attitude, and time is of the essence for those guys, especially here, because you've got seasonal stuff that you need to get done when the time is right. So you're just putting another roadblock in the way of somebody that wants to do a project like that. I don't see why you would do that. That makes no sense to me, when you could still have them come in and then ask them to do what you're hoping that they would do. Why not just do that? Why put any roadblock in their way if you don't have to?
But then what happens if you get a council that just wants to get out of the meetings in 10 years from now? That's the scariest thing, because for years I saw that sort of thing happen as a city resident, and it really bothered me. So to assume that city council is always gonna do the work and always be super thorough with everything and never miss anything, you're setting yourself up for problems. I mean, look at the hotel project. City council, not all of them, but there's a lot of them that voted for it. I mean, things like that they're missed by every government group in any sort of town, city, county, state, federal. Your example of the trailers is fine and all, but if you're gonna develop a big development, that's a lot more of a time commitment than a trailer. So, it's apples to oranges a little bit.
I'm just telling you,
Yeah,
that's,
I get
that,
exactly
that
what you're
is the
saying.
mindset of a business owner and a mindset of these guys. I mean, you said that they're all about money, 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 right? Which is good, I think, because you need a financial incentive to motivate people to do things. They're not gonna waste their time.
But if you
because
have a
They
multi-million
are
dollar
all about
project.
money, because they're
Yeah.
not gonna sit here and deal with you for 3 or 4 months to decide if they can even do the project. They're gonna go somewhere where they can do the project now. That's just how it is. They're not gonna waste time messing around with jumping over hurdles. If you don't want them here, they won't come here.
So another example is Dairy Queen. They want to come to this area for a reason, but they didn't meet our code for our signs. What did they do? They came in and asked for an exception because they're serious about building here. That's the same thing with developers. If they're not willing to come in for an hour to talk about something, or,
But that doesn't, that's not that issue that you're talking about, with the sign stuff, that's not something that would stop an entire project. I mean, I think they had to ask for permission to have the second sign
Yeah.
because there wasn't 300 square feet of frontage or,
They have to do a signage plan for that
Right.
many signs, because they have so many for a fast food drive-through.
yeah.
But I'm saying anybody that's serious
I mean,
about developing here is gonna be, if I wanted to really develop here, you think I wouldn't come in here for an hour and talk and see, just at least feel out the room?
Not if I was gonna have to wait for this planning meeting to talk to somebody, and then the next planning meeting to actually get a vote, and
Okay.
then go back to council, and
If I may, I would just like to add, just because I do hear feedback from developers and asking and talking to them, well, why you didn't build here, when I get the opportunity, they don't even come. They've watched the meetings and determined before even coming here whether or not this was going to be worth their time and investment and everything. So they do watch what happens at city council, and they do make judgment calls for their businesses and the profit that they're gonna gain based on how likely this is going to be a smooth transition. They're not even coming.
I can attest to that and say that's one of the reasons why we have had such success, is because we don't have to deal with the Met Council, and we're right on the edge of that. So just having to avoid that red tape is a big deal for a lot of people. So it does make a difference if we have less red tape for business owners.
I think this council came across as pretty business-friendly, and I agree with you, Jimmy, about, Mr. Mayor, about what you said, not making it any more difficult for business to come into town. This is a weird situation because of having to protect the residents too, even though they're signing an agreement. So that's where I'm a little on the fence about it. Why don't we just do a little bit more research on it and I'm okay with doing it each individual case. like staff is recommending, if we can have guidelines to talk to developers about these projects before, when they come in, to make sure that they kind of conform to our guidelines, would be nice. But I'm with Luke. In 10, 15 years, we get a big project comes in, and this conversation is forgotten 100%, and
But you
The
guys are
roads are too
still,
narrow and-
I mean, when you're saying that the city council missed it with that water shut-off stuff, and that wasn't any of us up here, maybe Steve was on, I guess, but, not to throw you under the bus, Steve, but.
I don't, it probably wasn't me and I wasn't at.
Probably, but the staff did not miss it. They told the council about it, so it's.
And the city council still
And the
made a
city
bad
council
decision.
decided that it was more important to be flexible to get the project done, because it would not have happened otherwise, so, and they got 15 houses built from being flexible. Now, is it a perfect solution? No, but is it better than having nothing there? Yeah, you know, I mean, I think you can always ask them I mean, we can always say, well, we really would like you to get these streets up to city standard and have them the right size, you know, that we prefer. Is that still feasible? Well, a lot of times the developers are gonna say, yeah, we probably could, I mean, they might be able to do that, but I mean, I don't see why you would put a hurdle in their way. You can always suggest things at the planning meetings, and you can always ask for things, and then you can decide and you can weigh that out. Does this make sense for me to, you know, to allow for this exception, even though it may not be ideally what I want, or do I wanna stick to my guns on it, because I think it just would be a better thing, then you can decide at that time, but I don't know why you would preemptively put a roadblock in their way, you know?
I think right now we just get more information, especially with our neighboring cities, see what they're doing.
And
And
Jason,
if we can put more restrictions on in a different form, then if that's the case, then so be it. But I think, you know, more information is needed, so we can put it on another committee of the whole meeting and discuss it further.
I agree.
All right, so we're moving that to, you wanted to speak on that? If you could, Deborah, could you come up to the microphone here and just state your name and address there for us, or for the record? Thank you.
I'm under the gun now, he pointed at me.
It's Devery Sorensen. I live at 13 Buckskin Boulevard. Jeff mentioned that the HOAs could possibly go out of business. What's the worst-case scenario for the city? What are we talking about substandard roads here? Is the base less, or is it just the width?
Both.
We don't know, it could be any of it.
It's both.
So you're running garbage trucks down this, school buses, and fire has to respond to this. I'm not worried about Travis. Squad car can fit pretty much anywhere. At some point, the business model may change. And all of a sudden, the city's gonna have these substandard streets. I kinda liken this to a business coming in and getting incentives, and as soon as the incentives are gone, they're gone. I understand you're wanting to work with people, but I think you have to hold to a standard. If you don't hold to a standard, down the road, all of a sudden, these streets are gonna be a problem. The city may be having to take them over, and they'll be in bad shape. We've had developers come through here that build substandard homes, and they're gone. We've had builders come through here and they've changed their names several times. I think you gotta look at the worst-case scenario. Who's gonna be holding the bag? 'Cause you attached to the city. You let them do that. So, in the bigger picture, all of the taxpayers are gonna be holding the bag if this goes under.
When the homeowners, and we talked about that earlier, but the homeowners association, when they do go under, it's the homeowners themselves that, explain how that works again? So I mean, the city wouldn't actually take it over, but, I mean, your point is taken though, but explain that once so you can kinda.
the city is not under, as far as I know, and I mean, this could be more of a legal question, I guess, is that we've been approached by an HOA turning over, the board's changing over, and the request has come to the city to take over the streets. Typically, that's what I hear, is the streets, and we say no, no, thank you. We're not looking to take it over because it doesn't meet the standards as was requested to be built as part of that development of the HOA. We have never, in my time here in the decade, have taken them over. We weren't obligated to. Again, that's more of a legal, if they pressed, I'm not sure if anyone else is aware of.
It is it's like private property owned by the homeowners association, so they're required to create their own board again, or step up and take care of it legally that way, or their homes will have legal obligations tied to them,
So the developer, once he's sold the houses, he's gone. He doesn't care.
Most
That's-
times the developer's still part of that HOA.
Can be for a substantial amount of time, but usually there's a transitional period for the HOA, and the people obligated are the homeowners within that HOA.
The fire department part was interesting, I thought. I mean, if you have, like the development we were talking about with the tight turns and stuff, I mean, if you can't, there's no way to fit a fire truck in there easily. So I don't know, I mean, you would know, I guess, but that's something I didn't even think about. You know, we thought about this when they were talking about the development off of Wendover and Eighth, and there was no fire escape, so the fire chief said he'd prefer if there was an exit on both sides. PD said the same thing. So it's one of those things, you have public safety. I mean, think about school buses that have to drive down those roads. What if there's a huge pothole, you know, and then there's kids on the bus that get injured, and that's because something's not built up to city standard. I mean, there's all sorts of little things that we can't think about now, but, I mean, every single person's gonna have different perspectives on this. We have city standard for a reason. You know, it's not just, we just guessed on what standard should be. It's because it's tried and true with engineers about what's right and best.
I just want to remind you, really cautiously, when you say that, when you change things in the city standards about doing extra things in your property because they own that property and you should do what they want, you're changing those city standards when you change that. Plain and simple. Like I said, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth when you say that you want people to do whatever they want, but you also want to hold this developer accountable
No,
to make the streets right.
residents.
That doesn't matter, it's the developer that makes that property. I don't care, do what you want to do, but I'm just telling you, you're saying you want people to do whatever they want, but in the next hand, the developer is the property owner, plain and simple. Until he sells all that property over, or until he turns it over to 100% HOA, he's still that property owner, plain and simple. So don't set yourself up because you're setting double standards out.
That's
I
fine.
cautioned you on that many times.
That's fine.
I just don't,
Here, guys, just,
Yeah.
Deborah, did you want to add anything to?
None of us have a crystal ball and can predict how this is gonna turn out in the end. But whatever you guys approve and whatever gets set through planning for these developments, there's still attached to ISANI. And at some point, there'll be a liability when they fail. Whether that's a fatality, a fire fatality, or something else, because they didn't have access. And you guys are supposed to be the standard to make sure that that doesn't happen. I understand trying to work with business and cultivate it and bring it into the city, but if you go substandard, it could bite you in the butt.
Thank you for talking.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's good input. Thank you.
Yeah, he has a good point about if you shut off the water for 15 residents and they send a note out saying no water from this hour to this hour, and somebody might forget and decide to do some cooking on their stove and they get a little stove fire going or whatever, and they have no water or just any kind of fire. And the individual who is getting their water shut off knows their water's being shut off. The other 14 might have been notified, but because it really didn't concern them, they may not be as cautious.
Yeah,
think that
and
does go
I
back-
don't know that this council would make that same decision as that council did. We may say, yeah, we think that's.
I don't think we would,
We
yeah.
think that's
We're
just
thorough,
not.
I'd say we're thorough,
Right.
but the scary thing is I've seen councils for years and years and years not be thorough. And that's what scares me. Had I not seen that, I probably would be agreeing with you, Jimmy, but I've seen it for years and it scares the hell out of me.
Mayor and Council, on the premise of that water issue, it was never in practice or standard procedure to allow for what was what happened with that water, right? They still were allowed to do it through the PUD process, so even if we had that all streets within city limits must be up to city standards. A development comes in, goes through the PUD process, HOA or not, and they want a private road, it is up to city council still. No matter what the code says, if it's in a planned unit development. So I think it is putting the checks and balances on who the people are electing up at the dais to make the decision that they see fit for the good of the whole.
Well, do we want to bring it back to
Yeah.
committee of the whole next month?
Sure.
Okay,
More information and we can discuss it further.
okay.
'Cause I don't wanna, force, if we can solve it in another way instead of forcing them and, of course we want developers to come here. But we have to have standards too, so we're trying to tread a fine line. But,
All right, so I'm gonna move on, and like I said, I might move these out of order if you guys don't mind a little bit, just to, for the sake of time. Probably the quickest one would be for Keith, would be the E1, Instacart at the liquor store discussion, and that was one that I had brought up. I know that there's other liquor stores that are doing it. I don't know if you know anything about, how that would be, I don't have a clue on how you would set it up or what the details are, or if you've already looked into it or anything like that, but I came across it and thought it was maybe at least an idea to run by you, so.
Well, Mayor and Council, thank you for bringing this topic up. I did have a little bit of time to look into it. It is kind of a busy time of year for us with
Oh, yeah.
Thanksgiving coming up and everything, so I'm gonna apologize right now, I could have spent more time on it. But what I was able to find is, some information is, in regards to like what kind of costs we'd be looking at. I looked at two different, programs, Instacart and DoorDash. Both charge a commission on every sale, so that would dip into our profits right there. They have people that, a lot of times they'll place the order on their platform, and then we get notified, pull it, somebody comes up, picks it up, goes delivers it. We're doing part of that already with our online orders, and we're not paying a commission to someone else on that. We don't have delivery, and I've heard rumblings, of DoorDash or Instacart and stuff before, but I haven't actually had customers ask me specifically for it. The only people that I've ever been approached by are people that are actually doing that and making money being a driver, delivering it. I try to stay as innovative as possible. We brought in the website last year. We have curbside. We offer a lot of stuff that a lot of liquor stores don't offer. In my opinion, I don't know that this is a good idea. I think it's gonna cost us more than it's gonna bring in. Kind of looking at what I found is when Instacart and like DoorDash kind of grew into relevancy was when people are really excited to shop at home, and people are still excited to like get stuff delivered to them. Alcohol is not a huge one, but it's. I don't know how much we're gonna make doing it. I don't know if there's a big demand for it.
I have a question for you, Keith. You said that there's a percentage that they take on commission. Do you know roughly what that is?
Yep. What I found on Instacart was 10%, and what I found on DoorDash was 13%.
Okay.
Typically, what you see is like in North Branch, like Taco Bell, for example, they charge like, you know, if it was a burrito that normally would cost you $1, costs you $1.20 on DoorDash.
Yep.
So they're charging more to recover that cost, yeah.
And so
It may not cover all of it,
to speak to
but,
that,
yeah.
what I read online and, you know, I tried to reach out to Instacart for customer support to ask them and I didn't get anywhere. So I wasn't real thrilled about that. you know.
Yeah.
If I'm having troubles just getting the basic information
Mm-hmm.
from them, I don't have a lot of faith in going forward with them for that point. But
Keith, is the fee paid by the customer buying the product, though? It's not coming out of our profits, correct?
the customer pays a delivery fee, we get charged a commission fee. That's how I understood it. So the customer is paying more for the delivery. And then I also read, you know, and like I said, I could have spent more time on it than I did, but what I found is that sometimes, like Instacart itself will mark that product up, not us. So they're taking an increased profit off of that item and charging us a commission
I
on it.
wonder how that worked though, with being alcohol sales. You don't know who's buying it.
Well,
And they
as
could
fa-
say, they could give you their mom and dad's name or whatever, and it's a 15-year-old kid.
Yep.
I just think that's a liability issue.
And that it is a big liability, however, that liability is on the person making the delivery. It's their job to make sure that the person's 21. And if they don't, then they need to bring that product back to the store. But we would not be liable for that. So that was the first thing I thought of too was, you know, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Well, this guy's tapping on my shoulder because a bunch of kids got, you know, a whole bunch of alcohol delivered to them.
Yeah, well,
And I will add to that, though, that the person, like the liquor has to be packed at the liquor store, and the person who's doing the delivery must also be 21. So there are administrative state statute rules that need to be followed, and that's an example of one. So it's not just the person buying it, it's the person picking it up
Yeah,
also
well,
has
but
to
in-
verify. So that would be, I would assume, something that the liquor store would verify, that that person checking out is also 21, which we
but
do.
the next problem is, you know, the kid gets food or gets alcohol poisoning and dies. I guarantee you, the city of Isani municipal liquor store is named as a liable lawsuit issue. I don't care what you say, it's gonna happen. I don't think that's a good idea. If there
Same.
wasn't an age restriction, I don't see a problem with it, but as an age restriction, I'd try to avoid that with a heartbeat.
The same thing could happen in the store, though, too. You could have a teller that might not check the ID to somebody that's slightly underage, and, I mean, that could happen with anything. I mean, I'm not for or against it, but I think it'd be interesting if we could get more information, because if it opens up potential for more sales, I mean, and you make more profit, and you serve more customers the way they want to be served, isn't
Well, and I
that the name
think,
of
Keith,
business?
you've done a good job of getting things that other
Yeah.
stores don't have too.
Correct, yep.
And so that was one of the thoughts that I had, is that you may have something that Cambridge doesn't carry, and somebody from Cambridge can order on Instacart and get it delivered up there, or somebody in Blaine, if they, you know, you've got bottles of whiskey there that are $1,000 bottles, I mean, they may want that, but they don't wanna drive up and pick it up. So, I mean, I could see it being, kind of opening up markets that you can't really hit now, that was my thought on it, was that it just might open some things up for us that we're not tapping into right now, but.
But I would like to comment, one thing, our current e-commerce platform, which is City Hive, does do 100% integration with DoorDash.
Okay.
So there's a possibility that people could shop our site and do DoorDash. Perhaps the commission would be lower. That's my biggest sticking point right now, is that it's, you know, 10, 13% of the sale is commission. Well, what's left for us?
Yeah, I think you have to bump the
You have to
price
bump
up
the
I mean,
to
I
cover the
could
commission.
sell a
yeah.
million bottles of vodka and it's not gonna do me any good if I'm losing, you know, a penny on each one.
Yeah, I think you bump the price up, because people are paying for the service when they're doing that. It's insanely expensive to do DoorDash and Instacart stuff.
It
I mean,
is.
But it's, you know,
People
it's the
still do it.
service of being able to get it delivered when you don't wanna go pick it up, or if you've had too many beverages, to go pick up on some new beverages, you know, so.
But
That's a good point.
technically legally, if someone's intoxicated at the liquor store, whether they're 21 or not, they're not getting served. So legally, if a DoorDash person's making a delivery to someone and they're having trouble standing up,
Right.
legally, they should not make that sale.
Well, I mean, I'm not advocating for,
Right, I'm just clearing the air there, just making sure we're all on the same page.
But-
You know, a big part of my job is making sure that, alcohol is sold responsibly.
right.
If it were me, I would prefer to go with DoorDash. I think DoorDash has a better name and reputation. I mean, have you heard of DoorDash? You've heard of DoorDash, but you didn't know what Instacart was. So, I mean, that's just I think DoorDash is more out there and probably has a better direction, especially if you said Instacart wasn't even answering your basic questions. So, I mean, I think it'd be interesting to get more information on.
I mean, I've talked to DoorDash before too. They're horrible.
Were they horrible?
Well, they're fine. They'll call you about 100 times. So, if you want the exact opposite of what you experienced at Instacart, you'll get that from DoorDash. They will not stop calling you. But yeah, I mean, if you wouldn't mind, maybe we could dig into it just a little more and maybe bring it back in January instead of December, because I know you're right. I mean, this is a extremely busy time of year for you guys. So maybe let's bring it back to January, Cal, and take a look at it then. And if you still think it's not a good idea, then that's fine too. I just thought it was worth looking into anyway.
I
so.
think it's absolutely worth looking into, and
Okay.
I'll get some more information and bring it to the January cow.
Okay, I appreciate that, Keith. Thank you.
Thank you.
The other one that's probably, sorry to make you wait, Devery, but I think the other one that might be a little quicker is the election voting process discussion. So E6 was what I was gonna move on to next. So this is one that I had brought up, and I've got a friend of mine, AJ here, who's he's been an election judge, and he's done some work with that, and he's done some research on really just ways to kind of verify the voting process, and been a part of some things. And so I just kind of wanted to just gauge your guys' interest, I guess, first off, because I've been busy too, and so I haven't had, I kind of attended something and got some information, and we did some talking with the county as far as the election process and how that works. But basically, the premise of why I wanted to bring it up was you've got, in 2016, you had liberals were saying that the election was stolen by the Russians, and you've got 2020, and you've got the Republicans saying the same thing, of just a different version, and you've got a lot of people that don't go out and vote because they feel like their votes don't matter, their votes don't get counted. And we, as a canvassing board, sign off on these elections saying that, yes, we can verify, we're vouching for the accuracy of these elections, and we really don't do anything to actually verify that they are accurate, you know what I mean? I mean, we trust that the county has done that process for us, but we don't necessarily do anything. And there's, basically the way that the process works right now is you have the voting machine that you put your ballot into. It tabulates that, and you leave everything, at the end of the night, and you guys could maybe correct me if I'm missing any steps here, but at the end of the night, you have the ballots come out of the machine, they're put in boxes, the machines print out your tally sheets, your ticket that says what the votes are, and that gets posted on the door outside. And then the ballots go, I think, with a jump drive to the county. And the county, is that right, or does the whole machine go to the county?
The whole machine goes to the
The
county.
whole machine goes to the county with the ballots in a box with
Correct.
2 of our staff members.
All the election judges have to sign off on it, though.
Right, the election judges sign
So
off
they actually watch the ballots.
as the
come out of
ballots get put in the
box.
boxes,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
And they sign off on that, saying that nothing was moved or, that kind of thing. But then the county takes them, they feed them into, they don't feed them into another machine, but they have the ballots there, right? And then,
They do have the ballots. They don't end up recounting them,
okay,
but they do pick certain ones
they pick
randomly.
two precincts in the
Correct.
county.
Yes.
So 2 precincts, not 2 races for the whole county or anything. You're just talking about, like Isani, precinct 1 and Cambridge precinct 1 or something like that. So it ends up being, maybe like 3% of the total vote that's counted, that they verified matches with the machines. And so, just as I was kind of talking with AJ about it and thinking about it, I mean, to me, it just, and I'm not somebody that thinks that, there may have, 2020, there may have been rule changes going on with COVID that I think were a little suspect, and there was, I think, probably social media that was suppressed that may have influenced the election, but I don't know that I would say there was a ton of votes being changed necessarily to change the outcome. But I don't know why you wouldn't want more transparency and more checks and balances to make sure that we're doing everything we can to just to show people that, hey, your vote does count, it does matter, and here's how we're going about this. And so, so that was after, kind of thinking about it more, and and asking questions on how does that process work. What I really would like to be able to do as far as how we run our precincts here, it would be that when the machine is done tabulating its stuff, or because I think it takes a long time to tabulate the tickets, right? It's like an hour and a half or something like that, or is maybe not that long, but it's,
It's probably roughly 20 minutes.
how long?
About 20 minutes.
20 minutes?
It
Okay.
seemed like a long time, though.
It did seem like it, yeah. But, so during that time, and there's a lot, there's different methods out there for doing hand counting. But I would just kind of would like to maybe say, okay, well, let's take, one race or two races or three races and hand count those before we send them off to the county, so that we're counting them right here at the source to verify that our machine is matching what we actually have here. And you can hand count, and I gone and saw a demonstration on it. It's about 3 seconds per vote that it takes, and you have a team, two people that are a Republican and a Democrat on one side, a Republican and a Democrat on the other side, and you're just sitting there, reading through the ballot, checking a box, and it goes pretty quick. And so that was kind of the first part of it that I was hoping to try to do. And then the second part is they have what's called the cast vote record. And the state of Minnesota, the Secretary of State doesn't require that the county does it, and the county says that they're not doing it now. But basically what a cast vote record is a PDF of the ballot, so which ballot doesn't have your name on it or any personal information, it's just the ballot. And then it also has a printout that comes with it that basically says, here's how that ballot was counted in the machine. Well, there's certain, and I'd have to kind of do a little more digging if you guys are interested in, I'd have to bring it back to the next cow, and AJ can maybe add something here if he's got anything else that he can kind of fill in the blanks for me, but there's certain counties in like Wisconsin where they're actually posting that on their website, so that you can actually see, here's the ballots that all came in, and here's how those ballots were counted. And it, like I said, no personal information or anything like that, but it's just something that we could do that I'd like to say, okay, well, here's the cast vote record for the city of Isani and our two precincts, and we post those to our website, and we hand count a couple of elections here before they even leave the precincts to verify that they're matching the machines. And it's not anything major that we're asking, but it's just, to me, why wouldn't you want to do that to help people feel more confident in the whole process? And like I said, it doesn't take a lot of time, but what we've got from the county so far is that basically they don't do the cast vote record, and that they don't have the machines set up to do that, which I've got to do some digging on it to find out if the Secretary of State doesn't make them, so that's where they're at. But legally, I think there maybe is precedent that they might actually have to, but they're not doing that now. But we could, as a consumer of what they're setting us up on for the election equipment, I think we could ask them to do that and to provide that for us. So, whether they have to or not, that may be something to be looked into. But I think the better approach might be just to say, maybe we should just ask the county commissioners to set that up for us, or to have that option turned on so that we can get that information. So that would be one way, I think, to go about that. As far as the other thing with counting the ballots here at our precincts, the county says that that's something that they're the only ones that are supposed to be able to do. And I don't know about you, Josie, and I didn't have time to dig into everything that she had sent, but the things that she had kind of screenshotted and sent over, I didn't see anywhere in there that said a city couldn't go above and beyond. I mean, it talks about, and maybe you did, I don't know, but.
She had a couple links in her email that went to the post-election handbook from.
Oh, right, and so
from the state.
post-election, it's then that she pointed us in that direction. Post-election, as a canvassing board, we can hand count those ballots. But at that point, the ballots have already been to the county and back, and you're kind of missing the point at that. It's one thing to count them after the fact, but it's a whole other thing to count them like right there at the source. So, yeah, AJ, if you wouldn't mind, yeah. absolutely.
So, in regards to the.
And just, if you could, just state your name and address for the record there.
I'm A.J. Andre from Athens Township. In regards to the cast vote record, the statute demands, it says that any election machine used in Minnesota elections must produce a cast vote record. So it's there. Every time you put a ballot through that machine, the cast vote record takes a picture of the front and the back of the ballot, every time. So the Secretary of State is making it difficult for us to have the cast vote records. I've been pursuing them for 3 years and I have not yet received one. Now the statute has been changed that cast vote records will no longer be public accessible. So the county is not going to be able to provide them for us. But, and in regards to the post-election review,
And so the county is telling us that they don't even collect it.
well, that's inaccurate.
She stated that the feature is not turned on in Isandy County. If it was required by the state to be turned on, I think are her words, well, I guess I said, can it be turned on? And only if it is required by state law, all precincts in Isandy County would be programmed for it, if it was required by state law.
The county could definitely decide to go above and beyond state law and turn it on for us, I would think. I mean, that's,
I would refer you to the statute that says must. It's not an option.
yeah, and so, and I just, like I said, I just didn't have time to dig into all the legal information there and stuff, but I just wanted to bring it, and AJ, do you have anything else you want to add, or?
Yeah,
anything
in
I
regards
missed?
to the post-election review, I was involved with it in Isandy County last year, and yes, 2 precincts get counted, but all we do is, the ticker tape says that there was this many ballots at this precinct, we count those ballots, not the ovals. We don't count the votes. The statute says, 204C.19, says when the hours of voting have ended and voting is concluded, the election judges shall immediately count the votes cast in the election. So we're commanded to hand count votes.
But it's not happening properly?
When
According to the
was
state.
the last time we hand counted votes? Just,
Right.
just, you know, in a disputed race, then they get counted. Otherwise, as the 3.5 months that I was at Isandy County, I never looked at an oval on a ballot, not one time.
Well, that's a problem then.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know why wouldn't you want to make it as transparent as you
Agreed.
can, you know? I mean,
And as you said, Mr. Mayor, local jurisdiction has authority. You can raise the strictness of the statute.
and that's really what I need to dig into a little bit more, because it
Thank
does talk about
Thank you.
municipalities, and it does talk about, I mean, we're talked about in there, like we do have some standing in what's going on, so I have to take a closer look at it and kind of dig into it a little bit more, but,
I'd like to see all the statutes on that. I
okay.
definitely would like to look into this more. I think those ballots should be hand counted by somebody. I don't.
And I'm not
I
saying we
agree.
should count everything, I mean, and we're.
Just a check and balance.
Yeah, we're
on one or
obligated
two.
to use, because they changed the rule in July of this summer, because we've been using electronic voting machines, we can't go back to hand counting or anything like that now. So they've basically locked you in, so that if you've started using electronic, you have to stay that way. So, and I'm not advocating for hand counting every single race. All I'm saying is that we should just verify. I mean, if we're signing off as a canvassing board, we should have done something to verify that, yes, we know this is accurate, so.
So as a canvassing board, I mean, I guess you don't know, could it be council that counts those, or?
Yeah, we are the canvassing
Oh,
board
right,
as a
yeah,
council,
so could we
yeah.
actually
So
count the ballots before they?
Not before they leave.
Not before,
That's what
okay.
the county is saying, is that that's
Yeah,
their
we're only-
prerogative and that we're not allowed to, but.
We're only permitted to do it as through the recount process, which we did have
Okay.
during the last mayoral election. And then that has rules and guidelines that we have to follow for the recount. It can't be within so many days of the election, and the county is saying that we would need to follow those.
But she did point us in that direction, but she also didn't point me to anything that says we can't do it. She, like the night of the election, she just says, here, you can do it here. Well, yeah, we can do it here, but doesn't say we can't do it here either. So that's, I just have to look at it a little closer, but Deborah, did you want to say something on this?
I'm glad you're bringing this up. I'm glad that you guys are looking at that, because my experience as a voter here is that we're minions of the state, and the county passes the whip down. And if I don't want to sound crazy here, but this is supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, for the people. The people are here. They aren't in Simon's office. They aren't up there at the courthouse. They're here. And for a long time, I have not felt good about the voting.
Yeah.
And I have history. My mom used to sit right there every election.
Yeah.
I'd rather see the machines gone and everything counted at this point.
Me too.
Yeah, and like I said, in July, they passed a rule that you cannot go back to
course
just
they
hand
did.
counting. Man, why would you do
Isn't
that? You know,
That's kind of the cart and the horse thing. Who's really leading this? It's supposed to be our elections. And we're being dictated.
Yeah.
The
So-
voting machine programmer election.
Anything that you do to open this up for transparency wise, because I pray to God we get this country back and all the machines get trashed.
I think there's a majority of people in this city that feel that way as well, so.
Well, and I'm not one of these conspiracy kind of guys. I mean, I am not, I literally, I mean, I'm telling you, I do not buy into that either 2016 or 2020 was necessarily stolen. I'm just saying that it's not transparent enough so that people can make that claim because they can't see that it's not, right? So, I mean, why wouldn't you make it more transparent? And like I said about 2020, I think there was some things that went on that may have swayed the election, but I don't know that there was votes necessarily. I don't think that is a major issue in that, somebody's actually taking and stealing ballots and changing votes, or I'm not buying into that, but
The process
the
was
process needs to be more clear so that people can verify that that's not happening.
But the
So-
process was hijacked also.
Yeah.
The judges did things that weren't supposed to happen.
Right, yeah, when
They
you
didn't
change the
have the
rules.
authority to
yeah,
do it.
Yeah, yeah, but no, I agree, I think anything we can do to bring more transparency is better, no matter what side of the aisle you're on. I mean, and I know we're just two precincts, but I mean, if we can do something to, it's our job to manage what we have in front of us, and we've been held accountable for these processes in our area, and I think we should do what we can at least to bring more transparency, so.
Yep.
So
I
if you-
agree.
Yeah. Steve, what do you think?
What it is, it takes more than just 5 people up here to change everything.
Unless it's 5 people in every small town across Minnesota,
Like I said,
yeah.
it's more than
Yeah.
5 people that's gonna make this change,
Yep, but we can do what we can do.
so.
Yeah, if we can make it more transparent at our level, we've done our part.
Yep.
Right.
And that is part of our jobs. And the election process is very important, even at this level. So if we gotta hand count one race every election, just to make sure and put all the this and that, if we can put all that away and be like, this was hand recounted, and I think it should be the presidential race and the governor's race.
And the county just does it, they just randomly select 2 precincts
Yeah,
and a one random race, I think is,
But that could be
So-
controlled by the
seen,
state.
I've seen other counties
You
more
never know.
transparent, but I don't know a whole lot of what they got at the county level. But we can focus on our level, and I think we should, because there is a lot of citizens that are absolutely disgusted with this could have happened, this could have happened. They just don't vote, and I think we need to fix that. So if we absolutely can do a better job at being transparent, and if we can control what at our level and show transparency, we need to do that. So
AJ, go ahead.
I'll try not to make this too quick, but 60% of Americans don't have confidence in our election system. Census.gov asked two questions about asking whether they voted in 2022. 28.3% said they didn't vote in 2022 because of a scheduling conflict. 17% said that they didn't think their vote would count or make a difference. That's 45%. So that lines up with the 60% from Rasmussen. You have the opportunity to fix this and bring hope and bring confidence back. The ball could start here, and the ball will only snowball later. Thank you.
Well, and I think if we take this issue up and we are more transparent, I do think there's other small cities just like us that'll get on board. There's a lot of people that don't want to talk about this issue because they don't want to be labeled as a conspiracy theorist.
Well, how many times have I sat here and tried to defend myself already? Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
But it just makes sense to me. It's
You
just,
should be able to talk about every topic on an adult level and have these serious conversations. And it's long overdue for this topic. So if we can show that there's transparency, whether it's the voter rolls and recounting one race every election, an important race, if we can show that these machines are accurate, let's do that. Or if they're inaccurate, whatever the case. But we can take steps to make sure that there's confidence and, you know, everything's on the up and up. We can make that happen.
all right. Well, that was really, I just wanted to kind of introduce the idea to you guys and kind of see what if you were open to maybe looking into that a little bit more. And so I think if we can bring that back to maybe committee of the whole, go ahead.
Is there further information that you want staff? I do think that this ends up being more information or further discussion happens at the county level.
Yeah.
It's reading what statute that we did get from Ms. Larson from the county auditor treasurer office is, it seems like even with the 2023 legislative changes that were made regarding elections and post-elections, it falls to the county auditor and what they are doing.
Personally, I don't think we should let the county tell us what we can and can't do. I think we should have our staff look into it, because
All of our elections go through the county.
well, that's fine, but there's gotta be something written somewhere that says that the city has the power to recount their votes. I mean, if there isn't, then maybe,
Well, I think that's the point, is
Yeah.
it does talk about us as municipality, and that's why I gotta read it a little bit more. I wish I had
Yeah.
had more time, but it does talk about us as municipalities, and it talks about the county as well. And it kind of talks about it almost interchangeably, sort of, but I mean, we are a municipality, and it does reference us, and so we do have there's obviously a reason, but I mean, maybe Josie's right, that some of the recent changes have created issues where we might not be able to overcome it, but I guess the real question is it doesn't say that we can count them, so.
Not that night.
Right.
If we did the recount, the city could pay to have a recount. We could do like we did with the mayor race and do every race. We have that right. And we would have to hold another, if we chose to do that, we'd have to have another canvassing board meeting.
But it's still not that night, so you're still
not that
kind of,
night.
yeah, you're still missing the point, the
what
purpose.
I was saying, and maybe it was missed, was I don't think, the county might tell us that we can't, but we can't always take the county's word as factual in this, so I think we should do our own research. I wasn't saying the county can't count them, I was just saying that if the county, what did you say, who was it that gave you this information?
The auditor.
The auditor, what if she's incorrect? I mean, just like the park dedication funds, we've been told for years we can't do it this way, but then we found out through our own research that we were able to do it this way. So I think we need to do our own research and our own due diligence on, this is a huge issue. You can't just take somebody at the county's word or, you know.
Just to get her title correct too. She's auditor treasurer / chief financial officer.
Yeah, so maybe she's too busy to know.
Well, I just want to make sure I get her title correct for you. Sorry.
Well, my point is that if it doesn't say that we can, does that mean that we can't? You know, I mean, it doesn't say.
If it doesn't say we can't,
Doesn't
then-
say we can't, so.
There's only two laws I thought that a municipality has to follow,
But
state
here's
statute and
here's another
federal.
issue for you too, is that.
I'm
our-
not gonna listen to anybody else other than state statute or federal. I
Exactly.
don't care what the county tells me, the
Exactly.
state, or the Secretary of State. They have no authority over us, the Secretary of State, unless it's state statute. Am I right or wrong about that?
Yes, but the procedure followed, the procedure outlined for voting and election processes is set in state statute.
Right. So that's all we have to follow.
Exactly.
That's what she's referencing, that we don't have the ability to do. what we-
Well, she's referencing it, but she's not referenced anywhere it says we can't either.
She could be picking and
You know
choosing
I'm
what she
saying?
wants to reference.
She's referencing that we can, as a canvassing board after the election's over, but She never said, you know, here's where it says you can't do that either. So, and that's why I don't know if it's like any direction. I mean, if you guys want to give direction, I mean, maybe just that I could work with staff or that we want. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think, my guess is that, not to throw our city attorney under the bus, but
Risk
it's-
averse.
this is not his area of expertise, and it's not, I don't know.
This is the people.
I
Yeah.
did not reach out just for,
Well, yeah, I
letting
know,
everyone
yeah,
I did
right.
not reach out to the
And
city
I know,
attorney
and
to
I
get
don't
his
think that he would
feedback.
be a real friendly audience to trying to go think outside the box on any of this stuff. So that,
I'm 100% in on this, whatever we gotta do.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
all right.
This is one that I'm happy you brought up.
But
Yeah,
yeah, I
I'll-
don't know what direction to give you, because I don't know yet. what
Find
to-
out what the state statute actually says, I guess, which sucks, because that's a lot of work. But it's probably
Yeah, I'd
one of the
like to
more
read
important
through it.
things we do.
I'm pretty good at deciphering that.
Yeah, we could, yeah.
We can ask the attorney questions if we need to. Well, he'd have to okay it at the end anyway.
Well, do you guys want to just give the staff, I mean, if, because I mean, technically, I can ask them to do things, and usually they oblige that, but I mean, if I were to give them some certain set direction, maybe the staff and I work together to, and if I asked them to dedicate a couple hours, or, I don't know, I mean, do you need that really? I mean, if I asked you to do something, you're probably gonna try to dig up the info anyway for our meetings, so I don't know that that really is necessary either, so. I'll do some digging on it myself too, and if you guys can help, I mean, that would be great, and maybe, you know, we can't obviously communicate between ourselves a whole lot with stuff like this, but we can, you know, certainly help point staff in the right direction, and, so, yeah, I guess let's just put it on Cow for next month, and I'll try to keep working on doing some digging on it, if you guys wanna keep doing some brainstorming, and maybe if staff can kinda try to dig into it a little bit more too, that'd be great, so. That sound good?
Yep.
Yeah, you're taking a leap here. It's sad that we have to consider it a big leap, but it really is.
And
I
it's-
believe
it's
all
just-
forms of government should be making sure everything is being followed.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, it was 2016, you had one side of the aisle, and 2020, you had the other side, and it just.
It'd be nice to
why-
have.
Why can't we just figure out a way to verify what we're doing so that people trust what's going
Exactly,
on?
we can stop all the talk if we just take some basic steps and show transparency.
Yeah,
And we can do that, I think.
yeah, I agree. Well, thank you for coming in, AJ, I appreciate that, and thanks to the staff for digging in
Great
and asking
input.
those questions, and,
Great input.
all right, so I'm gonna move on to E2 then. So this was private wells and the dog park water discussion, and it's not really listed necessarily there, but I did want to talk, Devry, I invited him to come in and kind of give us, he's got some concerns, and he's not the only one. There's been, I think, I've had like 3 people, I think, reach out to me that had some concerns over these new water meters. And I wanted to kind of hear him out and see if maybe, you know, the well option, that was kind of initially what I thought would maybe be an alternative. And I don't know that it's necessarily the greatest alternative option. It may be an option, but there's also a lot of rules that come with wells being put in, even if we allow it, that the state also has a whole bunch of other stipulations on where those can be located and everything like that. So I wanted to give Devry a chance to kind of give his side of the story at least first, and then, you know, maybe if we can try to come up with some kind of a solution that would work and I was also gonna preface this with, we have done special arrangements in the past for other residents who were concerned previously about the old water meters as well. But there was some things that were different with that too. But anyway, Devry, I just want to give you a chance to kind of talk first, and then if we have questions for you when we're discussing, we can certainly ask those of you, and then maybe we can kind of have Mike and Josie, and, you know, you guys know a little more of the history on what we've done in the past a little bit, and why we were able to do that, and I wanted to try to find some solution for you, and I know Devry's been concerned about it, and I wanted to do our due diligence on it and see what we could figure out, so.
Okay, unfortunately, my house doesn't have a well, but there are houses in the city of Isani that have wells that could probably reactivate it. But that's not my concern tonight, gentlemen. My concern tonight is the process that you guys undertook for this. It's called informed consent. Getting a letter and telling me to contact a third-party person to enter my house? Not cool. I didn't hire that person. They aren't there to fix my appliances, my furnace, or anything. That's something that you guys lined up, signed a contract with a third-party vendor, and then you tell me that, oh, the company does the background checks. That's kids in charge of the candy store. When has it ever been acceptable for people to do self-investigation? If there is a crime committed or any investigation that needs to be done, it should be done by that man for this city. If these people are coming into our homes because we didn't hire them, you guys signed the contract for it. What's the liability? What is the standard for their background checks? How do you really know they do background checks? So my whole problem with this has been informed consent. You want to install a transmitter receiver in my house. Yeah, okay. Some chats and figuring things out. Yeah, it operates at 900 megahertz. It monitors water temperature and flow. And because it was too expensive, you couldn't justify getting it to shut the water off with a radio signal. I feel disrespected that you guys did this way. There should have been more informed consent. There should have been an understanding. Because basically, what happened to me on Halloween, two gentlemen without city ID pull up and pull the whole con job that they're going to shut my water off because they're playing with red tags and taping them to my door. And they openly admitted that they have done this to other people in the city. It is nothing more than a con job. What authority do you have? I am current on my water bill to strong arm a trespass against me without providing informed consent. I don't like Mr. Mirrored Glasses in his camo playing the Price is Right prize guy. Oh yeah, people invite us into the house. Oh sure, when you start putting red tags on their door, how many vulnerable adults went through anxiety and stuff? At this point, the way you guys have handled it, I want to find those other people. And it won't be pretty, because it's called a class action lawsuit. What authority do you have to pull this? We're the citizens of the city. You should be a little more humble, a little bit more kind, and a little more upfront, and work with the citizens. This letter that, I know somebody over here probably has a problem with their database because I get my water bill at the post office and I refuse to recognize my street address for any correspondence. But guess what? All of that stuff went out on a route, and it took extra days because it didn't go to my post office box. I've been in this city for 60 years. There's a reason why I don't have a mailbox at the end of my driveway. It's called mail theft. I'm well aware of it. I was a detention deputy. I started here in Isani County. I went to Anoka County. In '97, I walked out very burnt out, but I know how to protect myself. And putting mail at the end of the mailbox has gotten worse recent years. So basically, I'm to the point that I still have questions that need to be answered for informed consent. And at that point, I'm not going to trust Mutt and Jeff from the city or Keystone or anybody else. If I get satisfactory answers, I'll have a plumber install it myself. That should have been a choice to every other citizen in the city of Isani. This issue has pissed me off so much that you know who I went to talk to. There's a couple of statutes that I looked up. If you guys can't work with the city decently, then I guess we go to the attorney, we do FOIA requests, and we get all the information. Because again, you guys approve something. The city of Isani is on the hook for it. If you have pedophiles, drunks, drug addicts going into houses, casing them, maybe they're coming back later. Did you guys even keep track of these workers? Who was working in the city for Keystone, and what houses did they enter? In the past, well, hell, we're sitting right here on that property. Rodeo, Jubilee days. What did the old man end up dealing with? He ended up dealing with a carny that was a pedophile on this property because things weren't done due diligent. I respect my privacy, and you guys didn't. And I hope you understand that. This isn't about the water meter per se, this is the process. You guys are supposed to be representing the people. This isn't, we aren't the peasants and you guys are some ruling class. Your withholding information is just as deceiving as outright lying to the public.
What information is that they withheld?
What letter that I got after it went out on the route, came back, got in my box finally, what information did I have? Oh, call Keystone, otherwise we're gonna shut your water off.
Devery, I want to tell you that we make mistakes too sometimes. We're human, you know what I mean?
I
And
understand that,
I-
but
and I-
when
I
two
want- I
city
want-
workers
I-
end up in my front yard
Devery,
and they
just give
can't
me-
answer.
Let me just finish what I'm saying, okay? I want you to know that we care about you. And we feel what you're feeling, 'cause I know you're upset. And I want you to know that we care about you, all right? And we do not look at you like a peasant and like we're sitting above you or anything like that. I mean, we happen to be sitting in these chairs, but it could just as easily be you. And we're human. And sometimes we don't get things done every time the way that it ought to be done all the time. We do the best we can, though. But I want you to know we care about you and we respect you, and we want to make you know that we didn't mean any ill will by it, as far as I understand, we were sending out several notices, and it sounds like maybe you didn't get all those notices, I don't know how many. Did you only get one letter in the mail, or how did that happen for you? Because I think we were supposed to send 2 or 3 letters out in the mail. And then you guys remember what the exact amount of letters was? Because it sounds like maybe you didn't get all the communication that you were supposed to get, you know?
The contract with Keystone required 3 contacts,
Okay,
whether it was knocking on a door, calling, a letter. Letter went to everybody. That was a base minimum, but.
okay. So it was 1 letter right away, and then it would be a follow-up letter, and then either a knock on the door or a phone call, so it was supposed to be, so with the first letter would have been 4 contacts to try to, and they should have explained to you, when they came or when they tried to talk, and I don't know how detailed the letter was. Maybe we could have been more detailed about that. I mean, right from the beginning, we had made this decision like, I don't know, boy, it was 3 or 4 years ago. And so it was even a lot of these guys, well, it was just Steve and I that were on the council at the time, actually. And the reason that we had to do it was because the software for the old meters, the company decided to stop supporting it. And I think you and I talked about that maybe a little bit already, and so.
That was in the emails and
Right.
that,
And we were doing that though with Public Works was actually doing it, so we had our own guys were doing, and they did, I think, almost half of them. But what happened is, because the batteries in the old meters were dying, when, the way that we read them, because they had a radio signal too, and we would have to drive around and read these, well, they were dying to the point where we were only getting like, I wanna say we were missing like, what was the percentage it was an insane amount, like, it was like, if you did 1,400 meter reads, you were getting like 200 that we couldn't read anymore. And so that was what created the urgency that led us to go with the third party, which was Keystone. And it sounds like that is maybe part of the issue, is that you weren't dealing with our city guys that might have been a little bit more friendly and and helped you out maybe a little bit. Instead, we had Keystone, which might have been an issue, so.
yeah, it's, the city guys that showed up at my property, no.
No.
Never again. Because the next night, one of the gentleman's kids was banging on my house. And when I looked out and I said, oh yeah, that looks exactly like that guy that was in my front yard yesterday. And I don't know why his two friends weren't as motivated as he was, but he was upset about something. Seriously upset. He wanted to bang down my door. And I had no desire to talk to anybody that angry. And it could have turned out really, really bad had he damaged something or tried to enter my house at that point.
And so, I mean, none of our city staff would have sent, I mean, so it wasn't city staff, you're saying? I
No,
mean-
but it's gonna
so, I mean,
be
I
an
don't know.
offspring of city staff.
But, well, it's just because you thought they looked like the city staff member?
I have no other dealings going on.
Yeah.
Coincidences don't happen like that.
Oh, you said it was on Halloween?
The one out of the three was very motivated, very emotional, and upset. The other two were kind of at awe and standing back.
That was on Halloween, though?
No, that was the day after Halloween.
Halloween.
The day after, your two con men tried to say, well, yeah, we get invited into the house. Well, yeah, you stick a red sticker on somebody's door and threaten to shut their water off. That's nothing more than a con. Strong-arm trespass.
I guess personally, I would like to apologize because when we were talking about that, I never really considered that aspect of it. So that was definitely a human error on all of our parts. And I think that is something that we should have considered more heavily. So I do apologize for that. And I hear you loud and clear. I'm 110% for the residents, and that should have been something that I thought about, but I just didn't, honestly.
Because for years, the city policy has been anything from the curb stop to the residents is the residents' problem.
Correct.
And I think you know my brother, and when they changed the grade on Broadway, what happened?
They lost their records for their sewer,
But
and you're
they
responsible to
changed the
dig.
grade, and his water froze every winter after that.
Yep.
You dropped the street 4.5 feet. And the city's fix was, oh, we'll put a spigot in before the meter, and you just run it slowly.
Yep. And that was a big mix-up on that, and that's one of the reasons I'm here too, because there are problems that the city makes. You know, council makes bad decisions, just like I was saying earlier for HOAs. You have human error up here that can create issues that you don't think about at the time, or things get by. You gotta try and limit the human error and all that stuff. It does come down on the city and the city council, and it's impossible to be perfect, but, you know, we try to be as good as we can be, and there's definitely ways to improve. And I really appreciate that you came in here and brought this to light, because half the time we don't know if something is, you know, if someone's upset, nobody says anything to us. So, it takes some cojones to come up here and tell us how you feel, and I really appreciate that. I wish more people would do it. So it's a good eye opener for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, and there were 2 other people that I invited to come too, and you were the only one that showed up, so. I mean,
There was a lot of flack on them water meters. I can tell you that right now. I knew what was going on. Even I thought the letters were like, they're not saying what's wrong with them. It just seems sketchy to begin with. I know I saw one person doing pretty much all the installs. I saw him around town for a few weeks. He was very nice when he did mine. But yeah, I agree. The letters left something to be desired. And at that time, I wanted the city staff. I voted for the city staff to continue doing it because I didn't want to hire an outside agency. But that's how it went, and
Was
I
that
wish
an option?
it was.
Oh,
But we wanted to get it done faster, so we hired out, and I'd never thought about the privacy issue, but I wish I would have thought about that and brought it up, because it probably would have swayed how we went with it.
The issue with trying to get it done faster was just that
The time,
what are you,
I
what are
get
you
it.
supposed to do when you can't read 200 out of every 1,000 meters or
Right,
whatever?
I get it.
I mean, how do you send them,
Yep.
how do you bill for that? I mean, how do you don't want, I mean, it just was a mess.
It's
Just
it's a
tell
hard
them.
decision. It's everything's tough.
I understand that, and part of me is questioning to being hostage to software updates and whatnot. Who says this company isn't gonna say in
go under?
7 years, technology's changed so much that this stuff is so outdated, and even though the battery is good for 20 years, let's do another round of merry-go-round through the houses.
Well,
I
and
asked the
and I
same, I
think-
asked the same exact
And I think
questions.
that's a good question for Mike, because I think we talked about that earlier. On these new meters,
The warranty?
the warranty is 20 years, right? And, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's everything
Or-
about
or-
it that,
Yeah, the warranty on these is 20 years, and Mueller says they will service them for the full 20 years.
okay.
Do I ever really have any guarantee from any vendor?
No.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not, that's not exclusive to water meters.
Same thing
I
with
mean,
police
that's
radios.
Police radios, that
It's
could
it's
be,
kind of laughable.
that could be accounting software, that could be
Mm-hmm.
any app on my phone. I mean, nope, I don't have any definitive way to guarantee that. I
That's
don't.
another example of a greedy businessman can just push you around, and if you don't leave it up to the people, then
Yep.
Well, that's the thing, because I mean, reading the newspaper and looking at that and seeing what the outgoing sheriff had to deal with for computers to keep the dispatch center going. Astronomical costs. These are water meters. I mean, even when I sat and talked to Wayne, sheriff, he said, yeah, I remember in Bram, yeah, we all filled out our thing every time we got the bill, read our own meters and sent it in. That's how it used to be here. And that, I want to be mad, but I also want to help you guys. I know you don't have crystal balls. You can't read the things. But 60 years of seeing the boondoggles that have happened in this city, and it's called empire building. Once a boondoggle happens, oh, we got to fix it. Well, fixing it requires more money. Oh, we're going to have music in the park? Well, I thought the whole idea of having the dance downtown was to promote downtown. Okay, where's the dance surface? That's why you're here. Because somebody decided to blow $250,000 and make a quote in the newspaper saying, oh, I'd rather round them up at Bluebird Park than downtown.
yeah, because you could, yeah. Because they thought the security of the people would be better if they're all rounded up in one small area. I laughed at that. I totally agree with a lot of things you said. I've had my mail stolen a couple of times. One of the cases just got finished up in Sherburne County just this last summer. But I still have my mail delivered. But did they have the options to have these meters put in themselves? They could have one delivered to their house.
Yeah, I mean, I
and
don't,
put it in-
I don't
and they
think,
could put
and
them
you
in
guys
themselves.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I just think it was that the city was covering the costs to have them put in, and so we didn't want to burden you with, getting a plumb, but I mean, if you want to do that, I don't know that we.
I understand that, but there's
Wasn't an
still,
option.
Yeah,
there were still questions that I needed answered.
Yeah.
That were in the emails.
yeah.
And those have to be satisfied going forward. That's just my hard line. I need to know, in informed consent, what I'm installing, having installed in my house.
Sure. And because I know Jim had been emailing you back and forth a little bit, and the only reason I passed you along to him was, I don't know the technical stuff of it. I'm not a tech guy.
And I understand that, but after
so-
Mutt and Jeff showed up in my front yard wanting to shut my water off, I didn't know how much the conspiracy went.
Sure, yeah, I
Because
bet.
that's illegal for them to do fraud on me.
Yeah,
They
I-
had no authority. Oh, well, we're just told to show up. Well, who told you to show up? Who dispatched you to my house? Well, we're just trying to get this done. And I've seen other city employees out and about with their IDs on. These two gentlemen chose not to have the ID, and the con man with the mirrored glasses, I don't know if we're from the 70s or what, they were not looking for the curb stop. They were looking to engage me. The way they parked, the way they acted, I know where the curb stop is. I watched Virgil Marshall with his corncob pipe measure it out from my picture window of my front and mark it. I had to argue with that little SOB about putting the meter reader for the outside on the side of the house because he wanted to put it on the front.
Well, I don't think they had to shut off at the curb stop to change the meter, because they just shut off.
Not unless the valve was bad
Yeah,
beforehand.
right.
But the whole idea on Halloween was they wanted to engage me and pull their little con. Because they had plenty of time. I didn't go outside right away. They're kicking leaves around along the edge of the asphalt and standing there by the back of the pickup truck looking up my driveway, looking at my side door, waiting for me to come out. If they were really there to shut the water off, they would have been probing up the yard from the front of the pickup truck, because that's where the water line was.
Well, and I don't know where they, because I don't know that we've, and I was asked by city staff how we should handle situations where we can't get them changed, and I didn't envision it being more of the issues that you've brought up. You know, it was more of a, you know, somebody just doesn't, you know, isn't getting it done. And I mean, I was okay with the way that they were gonna handle it.